Craig, I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Hey, Zach,
Yep,
one thing, there's no Endow employees there in the office. That's correct, right?
that is correct. So we are about to run the 2021 big game tag draw for the Nevada Department of Wildlife. My name is Zach. I am a representative from Calcomite Enterprises. I am the liaison between the department and Calcomite as the vendor. We are running the draw out of Calcomite's headquarters office in Dallas, Texas. There are no Endow employees in the facilities or in Texas, as far as I'm aware of. So I will go ahead and begin sharing my screen. This process is going to take about 3.5 hours. So Craig, I know you want to do some introductions, but I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I've got the 2021 big game draw processing schedule here ready to go. And I am going to click process, which is going to kick off the draw. I will go through an explanation of what that means and what is occurring as we are doing this. Craig, can you confirm that you can see my screen also really quick?
I can see your screen.
All right, excellent. So I am going to click process. That is going to kick off the draw execution. So Craig, I'll turn it back over to you now. If you want to go ahead and introduce everybody to the process and what we're doing here today.
Hello, my name is Craig Burkett. I'm the Senior Deputy Attorney General for the state of Nevada, assigned to represent the Nevada Department of Wildlife. I'm here on behalf of the Attorney General's office to supervise the draw process. This is actually the second year that Zach and I have run the big game draw together. Due to COVID circumstances, we cannot be in Calcomite's offices in Texas today, but we will supervise it from here. I am here, first of all, to verify the draw is being conducted consistent with the policies and directives of the Nevada Wildlife Commission. The draw is being conducted today by Calcomite, a vendor contracted by Endow to conduct the big game draw. Calcomite has now run the big game draw in the state of Nevada for the last 4 years. Again, due to COVID restrictions, I will be here in Nevada while the draw is being conducted by Zach in the state of Texas. Calcomite employees are prohibited from participating in the Nevada big game draw. There are no Endow employees participating in the electronic draw that is being conducted today by Zach, through Calcomite by Zach in the state of Texas. And I have verified with Zach that there are no employees of the Nevada Department of Wildlife in the Calcomite offices. The draw is being conducted today. The results of the draw will be released consistent with the Nevada Administrative Code within 48 hours of the conclusion of the draw, which for purposes of that code will be 5 p.m. today. That is, it will be concluded at 5 p.m. today. So the draw results will be released within 48 hours of that time. The reason for the delay, of course, is, and Zach will go into this at length, is that once the draw is completed, a validation process has to be conducted by Calcomite to verify that the draw complies with the commission policy and Nevada Administrative Code regulation, identifying precisely how the draw is to be conducted. And then finally, to provide further security to the integrity of today's draw, once the draw has been completed, Zach will transfer the draw results to a number of flash drives, which will be 4 in total. One that will stay with Calcomite, one will be provided to Endow, and an additional audit copy will be prepared. I will additionally receive one flash drive that will be delivered to me personally and be maintained by the Attorney General's office. And we'll discuss that at the end of the draw. That is, those are my remarks for now. Zach, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Craig. So it looks like we've got a lot more people here watching. So I'd like to just back up really quick and introduce myself again. My name is Zach. I work for Calcomite Enterprises. I am the liaison between Calcomite as the vendor and the Nevada Department of Wildlife as our client. And due to the privatization of the draw, I am responsible for the administration of the big game tag draw. So we have kicked off the 2021 tag draw. You'll notice here on the screen, this is what we call our processing schedule. And this is what records the actual process and completion percentage of the draw taking place. One thing I do want to point out is that these screens in our system, these are things that the department does not have any access to. These are only accessible by myself and a few other select employees at Calcomite. Just wanted to throw that out there. The first thing that you're going to see here on the screen at the very bottom is our generating entries. Generating entries refer to the number of random numbers being generated for everybody's applications. You'll see this number increase incrementally throughout the course of the next 3 hours until the results of the draw have been completed. So what I do need to point out again, entries are related to random numbers that are generated for every application. The way we generate random numbers for every application in Nevada is we take the number of bonus points for an application, we square that number and add 1 to it. That is how we determine how many random numbers are applied to an application. So for example, if you have 5 points for a given species, we're going to square that number. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is 26. You get 26 numbers for that species going into the draw. We then calculate the lowest random number for that species, and that is your draw number. So that is essentially what you're seeing happening here with the generating entries count. We estimate that about 8.4 million entries will be created by the time this stream is done with. In the ballpark of that range, every year it grows a little bit as people's point balances increase, as well as the number of people applying for the draw increase. The other thing you'll notice is this number will update every 20 or so minutes. The reason being is every application that is being evaluated, the number jumps up again. So you saw it just went from 16,000 to 25,000. Every increment, that means that some species has been evaluated. You'll notice as we get to mule deer, elk, and sheep, those are the species that the most people apply for. That'll be the longest jump in between the number of entries generated. So just ask for your patience as we get to those towards the middle and towards the end of the draw. You'll see that go a little bit slower. So again, there are a few things that are new for this year that the department has put in place through regulation. And this allows me to help explain the rest of the drawing process. The first thing you'll notice, and probably the biggest change to the draw process this year, is what we are calling the draw order. Historically, we have basically generated random numbers for all applications, determined the lowest random number for those applications, and we have ordered all applications in the draw from lowest to highest draw number without respect for species. So previously, the lowest draw number could have been a doe mule deer tag. That would be the first tag drawn, or a relatively easy tag to draw, or a mountain goat tag, a relatively hard tag to draw. NDOW had taken feedback from the public as well as input from cabs, and the new thing that has come out this year is we now have an order to our draw, where draw numbers are still going to be generated across all applications and distributed at the same time. However, now there's an order at which your applications are evaluated. First and foremost, we are going to evaluate your Silver State or PIW applications. And along with that, we're also conducting the drawing for junior mule deer hunters. After that, we actually go into your male species. So these are going to be your rams, your bull elk, mountain goat, black bear, buck mule deer, buck antelope. So all of those will be evaluated before your antlerless or female species. After that, we will evaluate the antlerless and female species, such as cow elks and ewe applications, and doe mule deer, antelope horn shorter than ears. And then last but not least, we'll do a third group of spike elk. And then finally, we'll evaluate all of the bonus point applications at the end to increase folks' point balance. All of that will be happening today. And at the end of that, we will have the results of the draw, which do go through a 48-hour validation process, and then results will be posted to everybody's accounts, and customers will be emailed the results within 48 hours. I spoke with Craig before this, and that 48-hour requirement is based on 5 p.m. the day of the conclusion of the draw. At the latest, draw results will be posted by 5 p.m. on Saturday. However, I'm sure that NDOW will keep social media and public communications open to inform everybody. Also new for this year is a first come, first serve period that will be happening after the second draw. Those familiar with the process know that after the draw happens, sometimes we do have some leftover tags. Those leftover tags go into a second drawing for interested parties to apply for. Any tags left over after the second drawing this year will be sold first come, first serve on ndowlicensing.com. In addition to tags left over from the second draw, any tags that are returned that do not have an eligible alternate will also be sold first come, first serve. So you'll see throughout hunting season tags being sold first come, first serve if they are returned by another hunter. In what case will these tags be made available? Well, that's the case where we don't have an eligible alternate. That's either going to be that there are no alternates for that tag anymore, or that tag has been returned inside 14 days of the season start of that tag, in which case we don't have the authority to issue that tag to an alternate. So that's something really exciting that we're looking forward to this year, more opportunity to get tags in the hands of hunters. Now, eligibility for first come, first serve is going to be the same as when you apply for tags. You won't be able to get a tag if you're in a waiting period for that species. You will lose your points when you purchase a first come, first serve tag. And if you purchase a first come, first serve tag that has a waiting period, you are going to go into a waiting period for the respective number of years for that species. That's another new thing this year that we're really excited about. Come towards the end of July, you're going to see a first come, first serve available tags link on ndowlicensing.com, where those will be made available in real time for purchase. The other change that has been made by the department this year is related to party bonus points. Nothing has changed in regards to how bonus points are calculated for parties in the draw, which I'll be getting to here in just a little bit. But essentially now, if you draw a tag as a party, you are not going to get your points back if you return your tag unless every member of the party returns their tags. So you have a party of 3 people, one person returns that tag, that person is not going to get their bonus points unless the other 2 people return that tag. There are exceptions that can be made for extenuating circumstances such as death, medical, things of that nature. But by and large, that is the new regulation with regards to bonus points and parties who have drawn tags. So those are a few new things for this year that Calcomite and the department are really excited for. Next, I'd like to give a few highlights of the 2021 application period. So this is our 4th year engaging with the department in this contract. And we've had a very successful year. Overall, the department received a record number of 393,897 applications this year. That's from 85,056 applicants. That is an increase of 12% over our record year last year, and nearly a 36% increase of application volume from 2018 when Calcomite's first year of the contract. In 2021, NDOW saw 4,200 approximately new individuals applying in the state for the first time, and 10,800 approximately individuals coming back to apply in 2021 who did not apply in 2020. Overall, one other metric we're really proud of is that support volume has been down 50% in terms of customers calling or emailing the department or Calcomite for assistance. These are great numbers and things that we like to see over the course of the contract. And we have also nearly doubled the number of applications where hunters have listed to be an alternate. So we are educating hunters on what it means to be an alternate, and we see that more folks are listing that on their applications. Now, I do need to point out again, when results will be posted. So those watching today, we are not going to be revealing any results today for the draw. It would just not be feasible. It is not possible to read 393,000 results in a day. So your results will be posted again within 48 hours. You'll see this reflected on your account, your credit card charged, and you will also receive an email. To that end, I would make sure that every applicant logs into their account between now and then and ensures your credit cards are current and up to date. So ensure that your credit cards are up to date. You have 1 week after the day that draw results are posted where you can pay for your tag in case of a failed payment. After 1 week after the day the draw results are posted, if you have not paid for your tag will be given to an alternate hunter. So my advice to you as applicants, always go in, make sure your credit card is current, make sure it's not expired. If you have family members linked to your account, make sure that their credit cards are updated as well, just to ensure that you don't have to go through the hassle of updating your credit card or the stress of needing to get that in a week afterwards. So again, after draw results are posted within 48 hours, there are a few other things. One, we do have a 1 week grace period for tag returns. So if you draw a tag that you know you are going to be returning, you have 1 week to return that tag and return it basically electronically. In previous years, returning that tag would require you to go into an NDOW office or mail that tag into the mail to get your points back. If you utilize the electronic tag return option, you'll get your points back immediately. You'll never be mailed your tag, and everything should be right there and convenient for you. Again, you can still utilize the existing tag return methodology, but the 1 week grace period we do find is more convenient for hunters, and it ensures an alternate hunter is going to get that tag. Whereas if you return that tag within 14 days, it's going on the first come, first serve list, may or may not get picked up by a hunter. And from there, what's left over after this draw and any tag returns not gone to an alternate in the grace period are going to go into a second draw. We anticipate that second draw applications will open on June 7th and be accepted until June 14th, with the draw being run first week in July. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Again, it is possible, would like to educate folks on how that second draw works. You may see tags that you applied for end up in the second draw. The reason for this is because, let's take a look at mule deer, for example. Mule deer tags, 10% of those tags are non-resident tags. You may have one hunt with 100 resident tags, 10 non-resident tags. And so let's say all of those 100 resident tags are allocated in the main draw, and all of those non-resident tags are allocated in the main draw as well, the 10. It is entirely possible that non-residents will return those tags in the grace period, and we won't have enough alternates to go to. So you may see that same tag show up in the second draw. That is coming back from the non-resident pool into the second draw, because in the second draw, residents and non-residents are eligible for any tag that is available there. And then from there, we go into first come, first serve, and into the fall and hunting season in August. Start off with our archery seasons, and that's a real exciting time for everybody. So those are a few things about the process that's going on right now. Checking in on the draw right now, we're looking at 54,397 entries. I would expect that we're almost through with the PIW and Silver State applications, and then we'll be getting into the fun stuff, right? Our antlered species, and then into the antlerless / female species. So as we're going through this, there are a few FAQs. Last year we took some Q&A. I'm hoping to do a little bit of work up front to address any FAQs. And so I'd like to go through some of that. The first thing is party hunting. I get the most amount of questions on how does party hunting work. And party hunting is complicated. It's a bit of an abstract concept. So we're going to do our best to explain that here for you. When party hunting, several or multiple customers hunters are grouped together on a single application. That single application has all of the same choices that are made by your party leader. And that goes into the draw as a single application with multiple people. So what we do to determine bonus points for that party hunt, we take the average number of points in that party. So let's say, for example, you've got, I'm going to mess up the math, I apologize, but let's say you've got someone with 4 points, someone with 4 points, someone with 5 points. So 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 5 is 13. 13 divided by 3 is going to be 4.3 something. That rounded to the nearest whole number is the number of points for your party. So in that scenario, you're going to have 4 points for your party. What we'll do then is take 4 times 4, that's 16, plus 1 is 17. Your application goes into the draw with 17 random numbers for your party hunt. So think of it as a single application with multiple people on it. And when I say multiple people on it, the catch here is that there has to be tags available when your party hunt comes up for choice. So for example, you've got a party with 3 people, and when your draw number comes up, there's only 2 tags available. We won't overallocate the quota. Your party hunt will be skipped and going to the next person, either a party of 2 or an individual, where we can meet that quota. The other case with mule deer, we do see residents and non-residents applying for the same tag in a party. In that case, quota has to be available for both residents and non-residents in order to draw that tag. So let's say there's 10 resident quota left, there's no non-resident quota left, and you've got a non-resident in your party. That could explain why you may have had a good draw number, but your party application was marked as unsuccessful. So that's really how bonus points and quota work for party hunts. The other question I get quite a bit is, how do alternates work for party hunts? Party hunts all people in a party can be alternates for a tag. Now, that doesn't mean that when that draw number comes up next, that everybody in that party is going to get an alternate tag. We order people within a party as well in alternate order. So you may see some lucky folks, a tag gets returned, it goes to you as an alternate. You may see one person in your party that was unsuccessful get a tag. If so, wait patiently, you may be the next one in line there, but we cannot award a single tag to everybody in a party in the case of an alternate hunt. The other thing I wanted to speak about is going to be alternates in general. So we saw a record number of alternates applying this year. And basically, when you sign up to be an alternate, I would encourage everybody to sign up as an alternate, as long as you know that you are good to go hunting that year. And the reason being is, if a tag is returned within 14 days of the season start, that tag will be issued to you. You will automatically be charged for that tag, and that tag will be on your record and mailed to you within 3 to 5 business days. That alternate order is determined by the draw order. So if you were the next person in line for that tag, the first unlucky person, as I like to call them, that's how you will be determined to be an alternate there. So again, we got some folks questioning on when results will be out. I do plan on getting to a dedicated Q&A after this. And so we'll go back through and I'll look for any questions that may have been asked. But for the most part, results, that's going to be the #1 question. So results are not going to be made available as a part of the stream. We could not possibly read 393,000 results over a stream. Results will be made available within 48 hours being available on your account. Looking at our entries really quick, we are up to 249,955 entries for the 2021 tag draw. We are likely just now getting to mule deer. Mule deer obviously is one of the species that Nevadans are very passionate about, and we see a lot of applications for mule deer tags. So we may not see this 249,000 number increase for some time. Craig, I went a little bit faster than I had intended to on that, but I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add to that, or if we want to open the floor to Q&A. I'd anticipated that taking about 15 minutes longer than it did.
I think we can open it up to Q&A if anybody has any questions. Certainly, also, you may want to talk about Cody McKee's participation.
Yeah, so as Calcomite, I am the liaison at Calcomite, between Calcomite and Endow. I can certainly answer any Q&A related to the draw process itself, the mechanics of the draw, questions related to the system. We do have available remotely, not present in the same space that I am. We do have Cody McKee, biologist with Endow, who can also answer any biological questions that you may have. I'm not qualified to answer those, so we brought in Cody also to engage with the public and answer any questions you have. So I think from there, we'll open the floor and we'll tag team some Q&A. We may take some breaks here and there. Like I said, I expect this to last about another 2.5 hours, so we do have plenty of time, but I hope you found that presentation informational. So we'll be keeping an eye on the chat, looking for any questions that may come up. And I'll unmute myself when those do come up, and we'll make sure everything gets answered. Hey, you saw the question from Josh Cabral, so we're going to go ahead and answer that. All I can say is that the results will be posted within 48 hours after the conclusion of this workday, so 5 p.m. Pacific time, within 48 hours there. What happens is the results go through a validation process to ensure that the results are good. And once that happens, anytime after that, within 48 hours, the results can be posted. So I do see a question here. Have I seen improved odds of drawing a tag through party tags or individual tags? And that's a tough question to answer. The reason being is that depending on the people in your party and what you apply for, that greatly influences your odds with party tags. So for example, you can be a customer or a hunter with a lower point balance, join a party with other hunters who have a higher point balance, your odds are going up. You may go into the draw with more bonus points than you would have had regardless. On the same hand, the other folks in your party may go in with a little bit less. So it's a bit of a wash and a personal decision as to whether or not you want to do that and do an all or nothing hunt with your friends or family. On the other side of it, there does have to be tags available for your party to draw. So if there is a unit or a hunt with 6 tags and you have 7 people in your party, then you won't draw no matter what you applied for that. So it's all about being smart with your applications, understanding the points of the folks who are in your party. I see another question from Josh Pogue. Will credit cards be charged today if successfully drawn? Again, credit cards will be charged when results are posted. And so that's any time between the next 48 hours at the conclusion of business today. My suggestion to everybody would be check now. No reason to delay. Go ahead and check your credit cards. Make sure that they are current on your endowlicensing.com account so that you can just have the no stress and peace of mind to know that you're all set for the draw. Another question, is it a bad idea to put a junior tag on a group of adults? I can't really speak to whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. Essentially, it depends on your preference. So if you think about it, the junior tag and the adult tag, those are completely different tag pools and completely different draw applications that are evaluated. I would say that the opportunity for junior hunters is there in the adult or in the junior draw, mainly because they get the 3 weapons on that and extended seasons, and they can take an antlered or antlerless mule deer. So there is quite a bit of opportunity there for the junior draw. Putting them into your party with other adults, may change their odds a little bit. They may have 0 adult points, but maybe at that point, you're guaranteed to be in a party with your kids if you do draw. So again, that's kind of just a personal choice, and depending on your preferences, that's where we'll go. The next question, I heard there's a large increase of new hunters with no bonus points. Is this true? So we did see 4,200 new hunters apply this year in Nevada. Most new hunters that we see in Nevada, juniors, folks turning 11 or 12, they're now able to put in. That's going to be a good portion of those, and also non-residents. But first-time applicants, you're always going to start with 0 bonus points. So I would say we have 4,200 new customers or hunters who have 0 bonus points. And I see Chris McPherson saying 48 hours from now is a Saturday. Do we have to wait until Monday? And the answer is no. We have to post the results within 48 hours of the conclusion of business today, as prescribed by the Nevada Administrative Code. So the answer is no. You won't have to wait until Monday. Excuse me. I also do want to point out we do have an endowed biologist available to answer any questions. If anybody would like to know insight on how quotas are determined for tags, what the process for that looks like. I do see a question coming in related to the draw from Jesse Canchola. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. So yes, tags with antlers or male or antlered species will be drawn first before your antlerless or cow elk ewe species. So I would encourage you guys going forward, apply for both a cow and a bull elk tag. Because your cow elk tag is not going to put you out of that bull elk tag if you draw it. Now the bull elk will put you out of the cow tag if you have a good enough draw number for both, but I don't think many people would complain about that. I see a question from Mike McFarland. Why did they decide to draw male tags first after so many years? Mike, anything I'm giving on this is really going to be my opinion, but I think part of it is prior to Calcomite having the contract, you could only apply for, like, let's use antelope, for example. You can only apply for horns shorter than ears or horns longer. You can only apply for a cow or a bull tag. They made changes through NAC to allow folks to apply for both. And I think that's where we started getting more feedback from the public saying, hey, if I can apply for both, I want to know which is drawn further. So I'd say that's just really a testament to Endow taking feedback from the public. You guys asked, Endow listened, and so we've implemented that for this year and going forward. NV guy, will credit cards be charged today if successful? So credit cards will be charged within 48 hours at the same time that we release the results. And the results can be released anytime within 48 hours of the conclusion. So I would just be on that. I do see a fishing with Logie with a question on how quotas are determined. I may kick that over to Cody McKee, Endow biologist, who would be able to answer that question. So Cody, do you want to take that question? I see another question about return tags. I'd like to get back to that when you're done. So do you want to take over for a second, Cody?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about that. Again, Cody McKee, staff specialist with the Department of Wildlife in the Game Division. I'm live from the Reno headquarters, just helping provide some input on any biology questions today. So the quota process is, it is kind of a complicated effort that I'll try and simplify as best as I can. So it really begins every fall. And I'm going to talk specifically about our mule deer herds. So every fall we conduct aerial surveys immediately following the last hunting season for mule deer. So generally we try to target those flights right around the rut, so mid-November. That flight those surveys give us some really valuable information, one on the available bucks that are remaining after the hunt, but we also get important information about juvenile or fawn survival. And essentially, we will conduct a second survey in the spring, and we'll again collect this important information about the population status, including fawn survival. And we can get an index of overwinter fawn mortality and give us an idea of how many animals within that population are going to be surviving and available for hunters the following fall. This buck ratio, post-hunt buck ratio, where we're trying to get a better understanding of available bucks at the end of the hunting season, is actually a very important metric, because we actually use that to determine the surplus number of bucks that will be available during the following hunting season. And that surplus is essentially the number of animals that we are comfortable being available for hunters to harvest. We then take all of this population information. It is plugged into a very detailed population model that accommodates a whole lot of information about our big game herds, the numbers of males and females, as well as survival across throughout various portions of the year. We also input mortality information, like the number of animals that get harvested and even wounding loss. So all of this information is critical to better understanding the population status. So then we take that information and we use what is called the demand success formula. And what the demand success formula is we do an assessment of the previous year's interest in the various weapon classes for that species. And we take the average of the last 3 years' success rates. And we take that information. One, we have our surplus available, or our surplus of bucks that would be available for harvest, expected to be available. We then divvy that up among the various weapon classes based on demand. And then we divide by success. And the reason that we divide by success is that we know that not every hunter is going to be successful. So we need to know how many tags it's actually going to take to get to that estimated harvest level. And so once we divide by success and we get that tag number, those are the quota recommendations that the department carries forward and proposes to both the county advisory boards and the Wildlife Commission. And this is a very important part of the process, and I think it's a part of the process that not a lot of the public are familiar with, in that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for the public to participate in this process, to attend county advisory board meetings, to attend Wildlife Commission meetings, to submit their perspectives and ideas about the recommended quotas that NDOW provides, because it's very much a check and balance system. So we go through, in April, we go through this process, this public review process, and then at the beginning of May is when the State Board of Wildlife Commissioners formally evaluates and approves our quota recommendations. And at times, there are alternate recommendations that are approved based on input that's received by the county advisory boards or the public. And so again, if you want to get involved and participate, that's a really great opportunity to both inform yourself about the status of the populations in Nevada, as well as provide your input about what the recommended quotas are going to look like for the upcoming year. And that's a process that we just wrapped up 2 weeks ago. So it's a very quick turnaround once quotas are approved. Here we are with the draw about 2 weeks after that. So hopefully I covered that. I know there's a lot of information, and it is a very complicated process, but the department does provide a lot of resources to hunters and the public to understand how this process works.
Thanks, Cody. I am going to go back through a few questions that we were getting in the chat, and I can probably answer those pretty quickly. So this is from CNB Platts. With the new law passed with return tags, what will the process or program look like with purchasing those? Those tags will be available on a first come, first served basis on endowlicensing.com. So that's going to be the same website where you apply for tags. You'll find these first come, first served tags available for purchase. See a question here by Dan Gross, the order in which the draw happens. So what we do is we generate random numbers across all applications based on the number of bonus points for each application, same with party applications. We then determine the lowest random number for all of those applications, and then order those applications from lowest to highest. However, new for this year is that we order from lowest to highest with respect to species, sex, or gender, or antlered versus antlerless. So we order everything, and then we evaluate in groups. So silver state and PIW being the first group, antlered or ram or bull elk all being the second group, and then your antlerless species, the third group, and then your bonus point applications. And I see another one. I applied for antelope horns shorter than ears. Is that considered to be a female, or does it just have to be a young male? I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe that as long as the horns are shorter than ears, then you are legal in that aspect. Doesn't necessarily have to be a doe. I may have Cody clarify that if I've overstepped there. From Dustin Whitwer, are bonus points that average 0.5 rounded up or down? So they are rounded up. We use a standard rounding convention where 0.5 goes up and 0.5 goes down. It looks like there are just a few questions about, in general, has quota gone up or down for deer and elk? Also some questions around fires. I don't think I'm equipped to answer those. I don't know if Cody would like to or not, or if we'll need to get back to folks on that.
No, thanks, Zach. I'd be happy to provide some clarity. So for our deer and elk herds this year, we did experience some declines in quotas, but it is for different reasons between the two species. So for our deer herds, as many people are aware, mule deer populations are in decline west-wide. It's not a Nevada phenomenon. It's occurring across all of their western range. And so unfortunately, given various factors, including this unprecedented dry weather pattern that we've been in for nearly a year, this has taken a toll on our big game populations, especially mule deer. And we're realizing that in what we expect to be lower female survivability. They're likely going to be less capable of supporting attendant fawns this summer in the absence of getting more timely seasonal precipitation. And the expectation is that we are experiencing additional declines in some of our mule deer populations, and that is being realized in those quota reductions. In other areas, those quota reductions aren't necessarily related to the population status of mule deer. They may actually be more related to that post-hunt buck ratio that I had discussed earlier. So if we conduct our surveys and realize that we had harvested more bucks than anticipated, and we ended up with a lower buck to doe ratio following the hunt, at times the following hunting season, then we make adjustments to our quotas because we want to ensure that we're providing an adequate hunting experience for those that are lucky enough to draw. And so at times that does mean that we are reducing quotas, not necessarily because of a change in the population status, but actually because we're continuing to ensure that we're providing the hunting experience that Nevadans expect. For our elk herds, we are also experiencing some slight declines in our quotas this year, but that's for a different reason. So for many of the folks that are listening in, if you've been applying for elk in Nevada for the last 5-10 years, you may remember the good old years when we were issuing over 10,000 elk tags, and that wasn't that was really an effort to be in compliance with our statewide elk management plan and the various population subplans that apply to those herds. So at that point in time, many of our elk plans or our elk herds were well above population objectives. So it required the department to substantially increase harvest to be in compliance with those numbers. However, today, most of our elk herds are either at or below the population objective, which means our quota recommendations are intended to either maintain those elk herds at the current numbers, or in some cases increase slightly. And so what that means is that we have reduced quotas in many of those areas, primarily on our cow elk hunts. Our spike in bull quotas are relatively stable from last year, but our bull quotas are more related to quality harvest metrics. For those of you that have had a bull tag recently, you probably know that we collect antler length, and that information is directly correlated to age of bull at harvest based on several years of elk tooth data and antler measurement information that the department's collected. And so when we see those antler lengths across the hunt meeting our harvest objectives, a lot of times that means that we're keeping our quotas stable. If we see our harvest, those antler lengths below our harvest objectives, at times we see quotas being reduced so that we can be more in line with that. And at times you may be above those harvest length objectives, and that would result in a quota increase. There is a lot of other moving parts in there. Again, I'm describing this process and fairly simply, when there are a lot of other data points that feed into what we're doing. So in general, that's sort of what has driven our deer and elk quotas for this year. And then Zach, I can jump into this next question about the smoke from the California fires last year. So anecdotally, I would say that there's probably some effect to hunter success. We also know not only was it a very smoky fall, it was also really hot up until mid-October, mid to late October. And both of those things really have an effect on the behavior and movement patterns of all of our big game herds. And I do believe that when we look at some of our primitive weapon classes that were more overlapping those that time of year when smoke was really bad, we saw much lower success this year than we have seen historically. And again, anecdotally, I believe that those lower success rates were directly tied to the poor conditions that were experienced during those hunts. And what we saw, once weather improved, it cooled down, we got snow, the smoke cleared out. We saw a lot of our rifle hunt success rates above historical averages. And so I think that really speaks to, really that there was an effect of those early season hunting conditions last year. And, hopefully this year we don't experience that again. But, with what we know, the expectations of our current drought conditions and the fact that it's predicted to last, longer than probably this upcoming hunting season, it may not be something that's unavoidable, unfortunately. So stay tuned and just keep an eye on the drought monitor, keep an eye on weather, and be smart when you're out in the field camping, and help us ensure that we don't have to deal with those again. Thanks, Zach.
I apologize. You would think after a year of being on Zoom constantly, I'd know how to unmute myself. I see two questions coming up here. So let's answer them in the order that they're coming in here. So Shane asks, if a party tag is selected and one or two people return their tag, does that mean the others in the group forfeit their tag as well? The answer to that is no. So let's say you have a party of 4, one person returns their tag. Those other 3 people still have their tags and are in a party, and they're all set there to go hunting. But the one who returned their tag does not get their points back unless everybody else returns it. That's new for this year. Marshall Evertson asks, my daughter and father put in for buck antelope, and we all 3 applied as a party for doe antelope. You're in a waiting period for buck. So it sounds like Mr. Evertson is in a waiting period for buck. If one of them draws a buck tag, does that just remove them? It does. So they would get the buck tag. Your party for Horn Shore would still be intact, just one less person. So it does not disqualify you if a party member draws. It would just keep your other party intact and just one less person. And then I see Dan Briz. So to purchase return tags, how will this be conducted fairly, especially with the inside information of knowing someone returning, like a sheep tag, for example? That is an excellent question, Dan. And that is one that Calcomite has been working really hard to ensure security around. So essentially the way it's going to work is if a tag is returned that is going first come, first serve. Now let's lay out again the situation for which a tag will be returned and go first come, first serve. A tag will only be returned to the first come, first serve leftover list if 1, there is no eligible alternate available, or 2, there is less than 14 days before the season starts. So that tag will go on the first come, first serve list. The person who completes the return of that tag will have no idea that when that tag goes on sale. It is going to be randomized within a 24-hour time period after that tag being returned as to whether or not that shows up on a list. So you return, your tag gets processed at 12:01 a.m. Anytime between then and 12 a.m. the next day, that tag would show up on that list, and it's going to be completely randomized using similar logic that we use to conduct the draw. In addition, we have some security measures in place to prevent things like site crawlers and bots that scan the site looking for when tags become available. It's going to be pretty secure. In addition, you'll also see on the page, the last time the list was refreshed and when it's refreshing in real time. So everything is going to be randomized in that case. I think mostly, if I had to go off of anecdotally, I think it's going to be a lot of archery tags that we'll see around the August timeframe. Things like ram tags are going to be very few and far between because usually we always have alternates for those. Those will be more for tags that somebody breaks their leg and can't go hunting and it's 3 days before the season starts. You'll see things like that. So my advice to folks would be start looking around the time before the seasons start. Check it in the morning and see what you can find there. And again, I do want to point out inside information. There really isn't a way to have inside information. If you return that tag after the 1 week grace period after the draw, that tag either has to be mailed to Endow or received by Endow. There's no telling that the person returning the tag knows when that return will be processed by the department. There's a whole procedure that has to be involved, paperwork submitted to Calcomite to process the return. So it's going to be fairly randomized with several checks and balances to ensure that nobody really knows the exact time that tag is there. And like it was asked, that's to ensure fairness. Just giving a quick update here on the draw results, you'll see we just moved up from 249,000 to 397,000 entries. That page just refreshed. Again, we expect about 8.4 million. The beginning is going to go really slow as we're going through the antlered species. We receive a lot of applications for those, and folks have a lot of bonus points, which results in a lot of entries being created. You'll see that starting to speed up here shortly. We're about 54 minutes into the 2021 tag draw, and I wager to say we're probably close to, 10%, maybe a little bit more of applications being processed, which should speed up here. You can see actually it just went up to 650,000. Josh Cabral, you are correct. Those leftover tags, if they are first come, first serve, can be issued up to the season end date. And I don't remember off the top of my head, it's going to be a reasonable time frame, right? Like you're not going to be able to buy it at 11 p.m. on the last day after legal hunting hours. But yes, up to the season end date for that tag, it can be purchased. Kyle Pastrell asks the question, if we could put in for bull and cow, and does that go for all species? Yes, it does. The only applications that would exclude you from applying for others would be like if you applied for a bonus point application and a tag application, we can't allow you to do that. But you can certainly put in for cow elk, bull elk, doe mule deer, buck mule deer, without either one affecting the other. Your antlered or male application will be considered before your antlerless application. So you don't need to worry about getting a better draw number for your antlerless application and having that kick you out of the antlered application. You'll notice now our entries created are now up to 800,000. Belinda Thompson asks, in total numbers, how many big game tags are available for all species this year versus how many entries for those tags? I may need Cody's help because I know the number of tags to maybe the nearest 100, but I would not want to give an answer that's off by 10 or 15 just because I don't know that off the top of my head. We do expect 393,000 applications with about 8.4 million entries. Those entries all being determined for a single random number for those. Cody, I don't know if you want to come in and speak to the total number of quota or not, but there's some more questions I'm going to go through after that.
Yeah, Zach, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'd be able to get to a few hundred tags. Let me pull up that information, and I'll give our followers an exact number by species.
Okay. Austin asked a good question on first come, first serve. So yes, you have to be logged into your account to view the available tag lists. If you click on the button that says available first come, first serve tags, you're going to be prompted to log in. So you have to be logged into your account to view available tags. The list is going to refresh automatically, I believe every 5 minutes or so. And the timeout on your login with no activity is 10 minutes. Now, once you have an item in your cart, you only have 5 minutes to check it out. So you have to be very deliberate on your checkout process. But that's mainly just to ensure the fairness that somebody doesn't grab a tag, put it in their cart, and sit there for 5 weeks and keep that tag from going out to somebody who would actually use it. James Fisher asks, what are the typical draw odds for turkey tags? James, that's a tough question that I won't know off the top of my head. I think this year we gave out around, and I'll approximate on this one, around 179 turkey tags, if I'm not mistaken, and that's between juniors, residents, and non-residents. We had about 2,000 and some change individuals apply. And turkey tags do have a bonus point system to account for. However, party hunting is not applicable for turkey tags. Mr. Dylan Patterson wonders, what day are we supposed to find out if we drew a big game tag? Will we find out directly after the draw is done, or will it be later this week or next week? So, Mr. Patterson, the one thing I can tell you is per the Nevada Administrative Code, we have 48 hours at the conclusion of business today to post the draw results. That's going to include charging your card for your tags, and that's going to include updating your results on your account and emailing you your results as well. So within 48 hours. I'm going to skip Mr. Baker's question because I think that's more of a Cody question, but I want to answer Austin's question really quick. If you lose your tag in your cart, it will not be repopulated automatically, and that is correct. It goes back into that randomized time frame at which that tag comes again. So you can't save a tag for a friend. We've ensured you can't do that, and we've ensured that anybody with less than ideal intentions can't save a tag and prevent it from being purchased. So there's really not a way to game the system in that part. It'll all be randomized, mainly just for fairness in that regard. Cody, I don't know if you want to answer Robert Baker's question about draw success rates. I have my own definition of success rate, and I would hate for it to differ than what the department actually publishes publicly.
I'm suffering with the same issue, leaving my mute on. So I see the question is related to draw success rates and how those are calculated. Those are based only on people that apply. We don't consider the number of bonus point only applications. And that's because those bonus point only applications aren't being considered for a tag. So that is only those that are applying to receive a tag and not a bonus point only application. and I'm still working on these summaries for tags by species.
Dan Briz asks an interesting question, and I'm only 99% sure on this, so I'm going to disclaim that a little bit, but can someone potentially buy a leftover tag if they already have a tag and return their current tag prior to the season? Right there, I'm not 100% sure. You cannot buy a leftover tag if you already have a tag for that species. I'd have to look at the department regulations on that and figure out how the system's going to behave there. I apologize for not knowing off the top of my head. And I see a comment for less talking, more drawing. So we'll give an update there. So we've got 807,349 entries generated for the draw. We're going through the mule deer applications right now, which do take a while because we do see quite a few of those. You should see this update here to about 998,000 soon. That'll indicate that we're done with mule deer. So we're just going along there. Folks may be interested to know why this process takes so long. And actually, by my thinking, it's actually somewhat of a quick process. I think doing simple math, 393,000 seconds would be about 100 hours, give or take some change. So the fact that we're doing multiple applications per second is actually going quite quick, more than one per second. And we actually just updated. We are at 998,142 applications. I'm going to skip Mr. Carter's question because I don't know the answer to that, but Coyote Wolfer, since the draw is early, what happens to the people that budget for the published date and if funds aren't in their account? You have 7 days after the draw results are posted to pay for your tag. So that will be after the 26th. You'll have until the 28th to pay for your tag, or else your tag will be given to an alternate. Wallace the Red, if no one has multiple applications and multiple points per, excuse me, let me start over. If one has multiple applications and multiple points per species, each set of points generates a separate number and entry. Yes. So your elk points generate things for your bull elk application. Your cow elk points generate whatever numbers there are for your cow elk application, all respective to the species. Ryan Thomas asks, if I am unsuccessful in the draw and buy a leftover tag, would it reset my bonus points? Yes. Your bonus points will be reset if you purchase a first come, first served leftover tag. Dustin asks, in other words, once return tag is in your cart, you have it secured for the next 5 minutes. That is correct. 5 minutes to complete your checkout before it is randomized and sent back to the list. Sebastian Morrow asks, is the drawing algorithm actually computationally intensive? What kind of machine is performing the calculations? You're getting a little bit over my head in terms of technical jargon, Mr. Morrow, and I apologize, but essentially we have an algorithm that we use to generate entries for the draw. It is called the Knuth linear congruential sequence. It is basically a random number generator where you plug in a seed number and it can generate random numbers between whatever range you give it. So we generate numbers between 1 and 100 million. All of this is being run on the cloud on our servers. And that is where the draw is being run.
Hey, Zach, there's a question from Chris Carter I was going to jump in and answer before it gets buried on the list here. So Chris Carter asked when they can expect to see the approved quotas in the hunt brochure or the annual hunt guide. So those hunt quotas have been submitted. We're currently in the process of drafting and finalizing the hunt guide with all the appropriate information. As many folks are aware, that often has the final quotas, season dates, any relevant information about your upcoming hunts that you may need. and might be useful, as well as shooting hours tables based on what part of the state you're in. Those typically come out in June. I think we try to target early June as best as possible, but so you should expect to see those sometime in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I think that's the only question there that I think I can provide feedback on, Zach.
Okay, excellent. Brent McCoy asked, if you draw a bull elk tag and you've also applied for a cow elk tag, you get a bonus point. Yes, so it'd be treated as if you were unsuccessful. So Brett, if you're in for a bull elk tag, you're in for a cow elk tag, and you draw your bull elk tag, even if you had a good enough number to draw a cow elk, you're going to be unsuccessful for that cow elk tag, and you'll get that point. And that would be the same for any species, whether that's a ewe and a ram application, buck doe application, same interaction there. Gavin asks, what is a good number of hunters for a party hunt? So the Nevada Department of Wildlife does not limit any sort of party size. You can have a party with one person. You can have a party with 1,000 people if you desire. I can't really say what a good number for a party hunt number of people in your party would be, mainly because that's going to depend upon what you're applying for. So what I would say is know what you're applying for, have an idea of what tags are going to be available, know what you're listing for your first choice through your fifth choice on that party, and make your decisions that way. That's going to be the best. NDOW also provides some really good bonus point statistics for applicants out there, where you can look at draw odds in terms of point balances and things of that nature. And Kings of the Southwest has asked, when will cards be hit? Cards will be hit and results will be posted within 48 hours of the conclusion of business today. So from 5 p.m. this evening, Pacific time, to within 48 hours, the results will be posted, your cards will be charged, and you'll get an email. And thanks for the positive feedback, Nick Branchetto. We really appreciate that. I will say also a good resource for learning a lot of this, the Department of Wildlife puts on some great tag application seminars. A lot of their staff work really hard to provide that information to the public. I think they've gone above and beyond in the times of COVID to make sure that it's even more available in a virtual setting. So I would also encourage folks to take a look at those opportunities that the department gives folks. Austin asks, does a resident putting in with a non-resident in a party change your draw odds? I can't say with regards to odds, but it does change your odds because you have to have quota available for residents and non-residents. Remember that non-residents are allocated 10% of the quota. So let's say, for example, we've got 100 tags we're giving out. We're going to put 90 on the resident side, 10 on the non-resident side. You mix your party with non-residents, you have to basically have a good enough number to draw both the resident and non-resident tag. Will Shocker, I apologize. Will asks, can you draw a depredation bull tag and a cow tag? Yes, you can. If you
Hey Zach, actually I think that question is, can you draw both this year?
Oh no. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought it was apply for both. Jonathan asks, if you do a party hunt of 3 people, are they in the draw pool with 3 tickets or 1 for the entire party? So the tickets for that party, and I'm actually going to call them entries for that party, are going to be related to the bonus points for that party. So it is a single application with 3 people on it that requires 3 spots to draw. The number of entries to the draw for that party are going to be based on the bonus point average for that party. Gavin Birch asks, if your card is charged and you don't have the funds in the account, will it not give you the tag? No, it won't. If you do not have the funds or your card is expired, you will be informed that you are successful, but you will also be informed that your card was declined. In that case, you have 7 days to log back in, update your credit card, and pay for your tag. If you have not done that within 7 days, then you will forfeit your tag and it will go to an alternate. Jonathan asks, how does bonus points play into party tags if people in the group have them? So we take an average of points for the party. So let's say party of 2, one person has 5 points, one person has 10 points. The average points for that party are going to be 5. So that party goes in with 5 points. 5 points, we square that number to 25. We add 1 to it, that's 26. And that is how many entries you get for your party. Mr. Diaz asked if I can please explain the application groups on the screen. So this is new this year. We are drawing tags in groups this year. Historically, drawing your tags, we've generated random numbers for all applications and ordered them in random number order, and we've started going from there. Regardless of what came first, like you could have an antlerless tag that would preclude you from an antlered tag if it had a better number. What we're doing this year is we are drawing in groups, where the first group is going to be your Silver State and PIW applications, which will be evaluated first, as those are probably the most desirable tags. Group 1 is going to be your antlered or ram or horns longer than ears tags. Group 2 is going to be your antlerless tags. Group 3 is going to be your spike tags. And group 4 is going to be your bonus point application. So that's the order in which we are evaluating applications this year. Backcountry, I can't speak to that note. I am not sure what the long-term plans are for the point system on that. I don't anticipate anything changing, but I also can't see the future. If you take a look now, our entries generated are up to 1.3 million entries. So we're getting through the antelope now, and we'll be moving on to the ram tags from there. So Jonathan, yeah, you have 26 entries in the example I gave. And basically, those 26 entries, we're going to determine the lowest of those 26. That lowest number of those 26 is going to be the draw number assigned to your party. When that draw number comes up, the number of people in your party has to be less than the number of tags available in order for that party to be successful for that tag. So let's say, for example, you got 3 people in your party. We've determined the draw number for that party, and there's 4 tags left. Your party of 3 is going to draw. If there's 2 tags left, your party of 3 is not going to draw.
Hey, Zach, Cody McKeegan. I have an answer for Belinda Thompson on those tag numbers. I apologize. At times, we tend to have all of the regular quotas available at hand, but the Silver State PIW numbers, I had to track all of those down to make sure I was providing an accurate number. So I'm going to provide a total number of tags as well as a breakdown by species. And then please keep in mind that for some of our species, this is going to be for antlered and antlerless. And also the department issues about 10% of our tags to non-residents, and that's established by commission policy. So we really don't have flexibility in that percentage of tags that go to non-residents. I can say that from an applicant standpoint, you are only competing with fellow residents on those resident tags, and our non-residents are competing with non-residents. So there is a differentiation there. So in total, the department is issuing 25,057 tags this year, with 3,490 going to our antelope tags. We have 50 bear tags. There are 57 California Bighorn sheep tags, again, spread across all residency statuses and our Silver State PIW tags. We have 452 Nelson Bighorn sheep tags, 5 Rocky Bighorn sheep tags, and 9 mountain goat tags. And for our elk, we're offering 4,728, and for deer, 16,266. And again, for both elk and deer, that doesn't include the antlerless class of those tags. So Linda, sorry for the delayed response, but finally got those numbers compiled and accurate.
Thanks, Cody. I see a question from, oh, never mind. The message was retracted. To give an update on the draw, we're looking at 1.6 million entries created right now. So we are probably looking around getting into the sheep where it'll be another good 20 minutes before that entries generated comes back up again.
So Jonathan has a question related to that residency breakdown, and again, that's codified in commission policy. So the Wildlife Commission has established that of the available quota that the department's going to offer, 10% of those tags would go to non-residents. So I think for elk, we're offering about 1,600 tags this year, and around 200 of those go to non-residents. So I can say that for both elk and mule deer, that 10% number is reached, and it's not exceeded. We're spot on for all of our species where we're offering resident and non-resident quota.
Thanks, Cody. Mr. Fisher asked the question, will the people watching the live stream find out if they drew? So the answer to that is no. I couldn't possibly read the results of 393,000 applications here with the time we have today. We will be posting the results to everybody's accounts via email and credit card charge. Those will be done within 48 hours after the close of business today. Mr. Chandler has a question. Why did NDOW do away with muzzleloader as a separate draw and combine it with an illegal weapon? I'm not sure how I can answer that question, because since Calcomite has been involved with the department since 2018, everything has been under a single species with selections being made within that application for your preferred manner of take. So I wouldn't be able to answer that question. That predates my association with NDOW. And just to give an update, we're now at 2 million entries generated, 2,058,816 to be exact. We're getting close to being about a quarter of the way through. Mr. Atkinson has a good question on the first come, first serve tags. So it is open until the last day of the season. It will go off sale at a reasonable time frame. So we aren't going to leave it up till 11 p.m. where it's nighttime after legal hunting hours on the last day of the season. You will have several options to obtain that tag. You can have that tag mailed to you through the post office. You can have that tag overnighted to you through paying through FedEx, or you can pick up your tag at an NDOW office. I would imagine most residents would just drive over to their local NDOW office and have the tag printed there. But we do offer overnight shipping for that as well. But it would be the responsibility of the hunter to understand that overnight rates, if you order a tag at 3 a.m., don't expect it to arrive at 8 a.m. from FedEx. That's not necessarily overnight, but there will be realistic shipping timeframes present so that people can make their best decisions. It sounds like Mr. Birch has a question related to shed hunting, and that's probably not a question I can answer. Cody, I don't know if that's one you want to take on that one, or what?
Yeah. So the question about depending on where you're at within Nevada, on whether you can collect a deadhead, that is a law enforcement issue. And as I understand, it does not matter what county you're in. You do need to call in a deadhead before it can be collected. And the reason that we require that is so that a law enforcement officer can investigate to ensure that that deadhead is not being collected for nefarious reasons. That is, someone wounded an animal or killed an animal outside of an open season without a legal tag and came back at a later time to collect it. Again, it's a process to protect both our wildlife in the state, as well as making sure that we're providing that opportunity to legal and ethical hunters.
Thanks, Cody. Really quickly, we're going to pause on Q&A because I want to give an update just to let everybody know basically what somebody called me out on my math, and I'll correct that here in a second. Sorry, long day. Basically, I want to inform everybody again about the process of what happens here. So after the results are generated for the draw, we will be taking thumb drives, placing the results on these thumb drives, and those follow a chain of custody process. That chain of custody process includes producing a copy for the Deputy Attorney General, for NDOW, for Calcomite, and one for an external auditor for the draw results. And that is what actually goes through the 48-hour validation process. Belinda Thompson asked a great question on entries. Is that the total number of applications or number of points? Belinda, basically what we're looking at is we had 393,000 applications submitted by 84,000 individual people. The number of entries that you're seeing are the number of entries that you are seeing are the number of random numbers that are generated based on the bonus points for those applications. So those bonus points are being squared, adding one to it, and those are the entries that are being created. And Mr. Geenan, I do apologize for my mistake with the math there. I can talk a lot about the draw, but I'm not a math guy. So thank you for calling me out on that and explaining that.
Hey, Zach, I guess while we have a little bit of dead space here, we can definitely talk a little bit about the department, our funding model, what our biologists do on a regular basis. This is a good opportunity for folks to ask some questions. I do know I believe there was a question about just the overall number of applications and that going on the ground to do good things for wildlife. And that's absolutely the case. Now, as many people are aware, the department operates on the Pittman-Robertson model, which is essentially all firearm and ammunition sales has a small excise tax, and that funding is then distributed to states where they can use that funding source for on-the-ground work, conservation, and so in Nevada, that's matched at a 3-to-1 level. So for every $1 that the department is able to generate through applications, the sale of tags, that can then be matched for $3 from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service through this federal excise tax. So as you can imagine, the generation of $100,000 through applications is then turned around and we receive an additional $300,000. So it's a great funding model and a great program. So anybody that's purchasing firearms and ammunition are already directly contributing to this model, not just in Nevada, but throughout the United States. This has actually been a very successful program. And it's definitely one of the underpins of why wildlife management in North America has been so successful, especially when many of our big game populations were essentially on the brink of extinction around the turn of the 1900s. So today, many of our populations are flourishing, especially for big game. mule deer, elk. Our bighorn sheep continues to perform exceptionally well, especially compared to other states. And it really is a direct result of this funding model and the ability for the state to be able to leverage more money through this excise tax. And I do see that comment to Clint Garrett. I'll be sure to pass that on if he's not listening. Clint is a great guy, and we really appreciate his performance and expertise within the game division and the department overall.
Cabrina Bunn has a good question. Understanding there's no formal junior hunt for antelope, is age taken into consideration at all? You have 2 youth applications in for horns longer than yours. So age is not taken into consideration when determining results, but age is taken into consideration when your application choices are presented to you. For example, if your juniors were 11 years old, you may have noticed that you were not able to apply for any unit where the season started before they turned 12. So the map page there would prevent you from applying there. So age is only taken into consideration as to what you can apply for, not necessarily in determining the results of the draw. And it looks like we've got Mr. Kenneth Martinez here asking, when will we get to know the draw results? So the draw results will be posted within 48 hours at completion of business today, so 5 p.m. Pacific time. Within 48 hours of that time, you will be notified of your results and your account will be updated. And if successful, your credit card will be charged. Mark, I appreciate you coming in and doing that here. I'm trying not to be on my phone, so I didn't pull out my calculator. So in the example, the average would be 7.5. That would actually round up to 8. So 8 times 8 is 60. Let me look at this really quick so I don't say it. Is 64. Plus 1 would be 65 entries for that group. So if any average comes up to 0.5, we round up. And again, I do apologize for that misstep there when I was speaking earlier. I appreciate your patience, Mr. Deenan. All right, looks like we're coming up on 3,389,815 entries generated so far. So we are hopefully closing on the halfway mark here soon. So we really appreciate the interaction here, everybody. Thank you for being here. I have another question about when credit cards will be hit. So credit cards and results and notification of results will all happen within 48 hours of the close of business today, so 5 p.m. Pacific time. Within that 48-hour window, the draw results go through a validation. The draw results are placed on artifacts, physical artifacts, for audit purposes and historical record keeping. And after all of that has happened, the results of the draw will be posted. Mr. Carroll asks, out of the 85,000 applicants, do we know how many are residents and non-residents? And the answer is yes and no. So We do know how many are residents and non-residents. I don't particularly know off the top of my head. We intend to provide a summary of the draw results to the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners in August. At that time, our report of draw results will summarize all of this and even more statistics around the draw in terms of who's applying, how old the people are who are applying, and what trends we're seeing year over year. So that will be a matter of public record. I would hate to speculate and give an incorrect answer there, but we do know. I just personally do not know off the top of my head for that. Thank you, Kathy Langdon. You see Mr. Reese is here. So Mr. Reese, I'm giving a bit of an approximation here. Let me pull up my notes really quick to answer your question. The Department of Wildlife received 393,897 applications from 85,056 applicants. So that is a 12% increase from 2020. And nearly a 36% increase in application volume from 2018 when Calcomite first took the contract. Gavin Birch asked, do I hunt? I'm really glad you asked that question, Mr. Birch. I'm what you'd call an adult onset hunter. I went hunting for the first time when I was 27 years old. And I hunt in Texas. I do not participate in the Nevada big game draw. That would be a conflict of interest, but I do hunt in Texas, and it's something I very much enjoy and a part of who I am. Jonathan has another question on statistics. And it's so hard to say with statistics around party hunting. It really depends on what you're applying for and what points people have in your party. It's really tough to say. If you have no points and you party up with somebody with 20 points, that's certainly going to increase your statistical odds of drawing a tag. Also, if you're putting in for a tag that maybe only has 2 to 5 quota, it may go down. So it's really up to the party to determine what's best for them when submitting an application. What options are there if you do not successfully draw a tag? So Alejandro, awesome. Let me give you a bit of an update there. So after the draw is over, there are going to be some tags left over. There are every year. That information will be provided at the same time that the results are released. Those tags, as well as any tags that are returned in the electronic grace period, will go into a second drawing. In the second drawing, you'll be able to apply for those tags much like this. One thing to note, any bonus points that you accrue as a part of the first drawing, you can use in the second drawing, but you will lose those points or have them reset if you draw a tag in the second drawing. In addition, you can only earn 1 point a year, so if you're unsuccessful in both the main draw and the second draw, you won't get an extra point for that year, 1 point per year per license. At the conclusion of the second draw, any tags that are left over would be put on sale on a first come, first served basis. And as well as throughout hunting season, any tags that are returned that are not able to go to an alternate would be sold on a first come, first served basis up until the end of the season. The case where tags won't go to an alternate would either be where there are no eligible alternates remaining for that tag, meaning we've exhausted the alternate list, or the tag is returned within 14 days of the season start, in which case we don't have the authority to issue an alternate at that time. So those are really your options throughout the rest of the year. I do know that Endow has other opportunities in terms of small game hunting. There's a Sheldon Sage Grouse Reservation drawing, an Overton Dove drawing. So there are additional opportunities as well outside of the process that I mentioned.
Hey, Zach, this is Craig Burkett. Just do me a favor and make sure you relate to the public that you cannot apply for big game tags in the state of Nevada again. Yeah,
that's a good point. So I'll reiterate that. I do not, and I'm not allowed to apply for Nevada big game tags. So I do hunt. I hunt in Texas. It would be a conflict of interest and breach of contract between Calcomite and the department if I were to submit a big game tag application in Nevada. So and absolutely not. Thanks, Craig. Did I summarize that appropriately?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And the same applies to all Calcomite employees.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Zach, I was going to add, and you did a great job summarizing, your Nevada hunting license is good for so much more than just applying for big game tags here. There's chucker hunting opportunities, grouse opportunities. We're one of the states that probably offers more sage grouse hunting than others. And then, of course, if you purchased a fishing license combo with your big game hunting license, there's many fishing opportunities throughout the state. While we are the most arid state in the West, we have a very active fisheries program that's doing their best to capitalize on the various opportunities to provide some fishing for Nevadans. And also just some really cool small mountain streams throughout the basin and ranges of the state. Gives you more opportunities to use that hunting fishing combo than just applying for big game. And certainly depending on when you've applied, you would still have an opportunity to put in for turkey next year with our 365-day license, again, depending on when that hunting license was purchased. And then I did see a question I might be able to provide some perspective, Zach, from Jimmy Shaw asking about non-resident mountain goat tags. It's just really tough to say at this point. It depends on how well our herds perform. Again, the department's mandated to offer 10% of their tags to non-residents. Right now, the mountain goat quota is at 9, so we don't currently have a resource available to offer that additional non-resident tag. Certainly we would love to get to that point, but again, that depends on our herds performing well. They are struggling in some areas with mycoplasma over pneumonia. The lamb recruitment or kid recruitment isn't great. So over time, if we can address some of those population challenges with our mountain goat populations and hopefully increase numbers, you would see that non-resident mountain goat tag. At this time, I can't say one way or the other when or if that would be available.
A couple of questions on the first come, first serve tags that I'm going to kind of group together in a bit of a discussion. Those first come, first serve tags, and this is questions from Micah and Alejandro. Those are all going to be available on endowlicensing.com. So the same website that you apply for tags. When first come, first serve leftover tags are available, you'll see an extra navigation up on the screen. So you'll have the purchase licenses, apply for draw. You'll see one that says purchase leftover tags. We're still wordsmithing the language there. So those will be put not at a certain time of day, but randomly as they quote unquote trickle in, like you mentioned, Micah. There is a 24-hour randomization period where after the return is processed by the department, that tag will show up randomly within 24 hours. So there's really no way to tell when a tag will show up on that list or not. The reason we're doing that is just for complete fairness to everybody. We don't want any sort of backdoor system where people can find out when tags will be available. Looks like we're getting close to 5 million entries, looking at 4,974,674 entries generated. So we're over the halfway point now. We're getting into our RAM applications where there's quite a few entries generated for those because applicants tend to have bigger, larger point balances. So we'll see things slow down a little bit. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned for first come, first serve tags is first come, first serve tags will be residency agnostic. So we did mention earlier that we aren't, or Endow is not sure when they'll be able to offer, like, say, a mountain goat tag to non-residents in the draw. Any tag first come, first serve will be available to any customer regardless of residency. Now, a mountain goat tag getting returned, the chances of that are astronomically low, but that could be a potential situation. I think I'm going to answer your question properly, David, and let me know if I don't. You ask, when is the cutoff for someone returning a tag to be put on for the first come, first serve tag? So in order to return a tag, you must return that tag before the season starts. And so as long as you do that, and there is no eligible alternate, and the tag is returned within 14 days of the season start, then it will be on that first come, first serve list. So essentially, as long as you return the tag before the start of the season, there is a potential that it could go on for first come, first serve. Nick, yeah, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that better. So what you're looking at here again are entries being generated for bonus points, and then results will be generated rather quickly after that. That's when we determine the lowest number, go through the list, and evaluate who is successful and unsuccessful. So David asks, if someone returns a tag 1 week before the start of the season, yes, that would go first come, first serve. Lopez 5020, I appreciate that comment. That's really the whole purpose of this. I understand it may be confusing as to why we do this, where you won't be notified of your results. But really, this is made to be informational and engage with the public between Endow and Calcomite, and give you some insight into the process. So we're happy to be here and answer any questions. Josh, I don't know the answer to your question. But what I can tell you is that we did see a larger number of average applications per customer. Anecdotally, I do think some of that may have been done for changing the draw order. More people are applying for antlerless animals that they normally wouldn't have. Last year, we had about an average number of applications at 4.2 per hunter. This year, that increased to about 4.6. And Austin asks, if you are in a waiting period for a species, can you purchase a first come, first serve tag? The answer is no. So that waiting period would apply to a first come, first serve tag the same way it would apply as if you were drawing for that tag. Additionally, if you were to purchase a first come, first serve tag where that species accrues a waiting period, you would be put into a waiting period for that species for obtaining that tag for that year.
So Zach, it's been a little while since we talked a little bit about tag quotas and their direction. And as I mentioned, we're looking at some subtle declines across the board. And I think it'd be a good time to just kind of talk about some of the threats that are affecting our big game populations and why we're seeing some of these reductions, especially with our mule deer herds. As I mentioned earlier, Nevada's in this unprecedented drought. There's been articles published about it being a mega drought, but we do know that since about last May, the state has been exceptionally dry, and that has some really big implications on our big game populations. Not to mention, as many people are probably aware, we have a very active water development program. And what those water developments do, they collect and store rainwater across the state in places that are very arid. They help augment water sources in areas where natural water has been lost because of degradation to the source, or even potentially just lost due to climate change. And these water sources are placed strategically so that we can support the big game populations. And that's a very common practice in Southern Nevada, from the transition to the Great Basin Desert south to Laughlin. We do that for many populations, especially our desert bighorn sheep. But what is also a key component to that rainfall is the influence that it has on rangeland conditions. So we can provide an exceptional amount of water to our big game, but in the absence of food to eat, which relies on seasonal and timely rains, our populations can still struggle despite having adequate water available. And so right now, the department's looking at these various rainfall patterns and precipitation, hoping that we get more spring rain, and then maybe we have a more active summer monsoon season down south, so that we can get both that recharge of our water sources, but also we see improvements in rangeland productivity, so that our females that are attending young can be in better condition and support those young through the fall and winter, and hopefully recruit a higher number of individuals into the population next year. Again, if conditions don't change at this time, it's probably going to be a bleak winter, and we're likely to see an effect to our big game populations next spring, especially if we continue with dry conditions, but then we hit a very active and severe winter. That could be a very unfortunate set of circumstances. So again, we're doing everything we can, whether it is thinning of pinyon juniper, reseeding following wildfire, but there's also climatic conditions that are affecting our big game. And I do see a question from J Pond 4 regarding wild horses. And there is competition among wild horses, both for water and for resources on the landscape. Unfortunately, the department does not manage wild horse or feral horse populations in the state. We're actively coordinating with our land management partners, the Bureau of Land Management and U.S. Forest Service, to come up with ideas and strategies so that we can help mitigate some of the herd growth in many of those areas. But the department does recognize, those challenges with horses on the landscape and what that may mean for our native big game species.
Looks like there's a few questions I need to answer. There's a couple that I could probably kill some birds with one stone, and that's around the word Calcomite. So I've heard our company's name be pronounced all kinds of different ways, but our company's name is pronounced Calcomite. And that is the namesake of the husband and wife who founded our company. We've got 132 employees. We're based out of Dallas, Texas, and I'm very proud to work with some amazing folks here and at the Department of Wildlife. Again, it's pronounced Calcomite. Mr. Carroll asked if there are more applicants this year compared to last year. The answer is yes. 84,000 roughly, or 85,000, excuse me, applicants this year. That is an increase from last year. And then Eric asks, are the points for a spike elk hunt separated from antlered elk hunts? Yes, your bull elk point balance is separate than your spike elk point balance. Drawing either of those tags will not reset your bonus points for either of those. Cantrice asks, does the youth have a better chance of drawing a tag than an adult? So really your chances of drawing are going to be based on the units and hunts that you put in for and your number of bonus points. However, special tags are allocated to the youth in the junior mule deer antlered or antlerless tag pool. Youth do enjoy a little bit better opportunity in that drawing, although nothing is guaranteed. But you're not competing against adults who have point balances pretty high in that regard. Austin, yes, that is correct. So there has to be non-resident quota available and resident quota available for a mixed party hunt with residents and non-residents. There are a couple of other questions that I won't be able to answer. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. Ones that would be more of an inquiry for the commission or regulating body, I unfortunately will not be able to answer.
So Zach, Wallace the Red asks about whether we partner with cattle ranchers or, I suppose any other body to help supplement water sources. And I suppose that actually would highlight an effort that the department did this last summer. As some of our followers might be aware, Southern Nevada experienced critically dry conditions. Unfortunately, we didn't get the rainfall that we expect to recharge those water developments that we had discussed earlier. And the department partnered with many agencies as well as several non-governmental organizations, just interested partners that want to help conserve our native bighorn sheep populations to supplement water and haul water to those water sources so that we could save as many bighorn as we could. And that was a widely successful effort. The department hauled hundreds of thousands of gallons of water over the course of several weeks to many water developments across mountain ranges in Southern Nevada. And we believe that those efforts weren't in vain and that we certainly supported many of our animals until cooler weather conditions arrived. And we saw some changes in weather patterns that would help them persist a little bit longer without without maximum water supplying water to them. And again, we don't necessarily partner directly with cattle ranchers, but we do partner with a lot of organizations to supplement water during these extremely dry times. But what I can say is that, we have a very good relationship with the livestock industry in the state, and we often work collaboratively with some of these more pressing challenges on Nevada rangelands. And oftentimes what's good for livestock producers is also good for Nevada's wildlife, especially when both things are done appropriately and based on what the landscape can sustain. We're happy to note that conditions in Southern Nevada have improved substantially. There has been timely seasonal rains that are helping recharge those water developments. Unfortunately, the lack of rainfall for such a long time is certainly taking its toll on the rangeland. And I would highlight our Muddy Mountain Bighorn sheep herd, which, as many people know, is one of our premier bighorn sheep hunting destinations in the state. You will probably see that, or you probably are already aware of some increases in both our ram and ewe quotas in the Muddy Mountains. The Muddies were hit exceptionally hard by this recent drought, and we already know that population is probably close to or potentially even at carrying capacity. And so the department's recommendations this year, one, through ewe hunts to help lower the densities of animals and help take a little bit of stress off of both those water developments, as well as some of the struggling rangeland. And also for our ram tags, where we believe that we still have adequate number of mature rams, we felt that this was a good year to step that up a little bit and take advantage of those of available animals while we can, especially in the face of continued uncertainty and dry conditions in the state.
I see a question from Nick Anthony, and that is, at what age can you start purchasing bonus points for youth? You can start purchasing bonus points for youth when they are 11 years of age, provided that they turn 12 before the last opening hunt of the season. And I see Austin and Nick asking a question about what other states does Calcomite provide licensed services to? So currently Calcomite is contracted through the state of Nevada for their licensing and draw services. We perform similar services for the state of New York, and we are currently onboarding the state of Massachusetts for this. So those are our 3 states currently. We're always looking to grow. There are several vendors that provide these services across the United States, and most states do utilize a third-party vendor for their license and draw services. I personally, in other lines of work, have done this same position for about 8 US states and Canadian provinces as well. Looks like there's a few other questions maybe for Cody, but I'll quickly just reiterate a couple of things. One, we're at 7,368,547 entries generated. We're getting close. We'll have about 1 million more entries generated. You'll see a big pause on this one. The reason being is we've gotten through our mule deer, our antelope, our ram applications. We're getting into our bull elk applications now, which also have quite a few applicants and entries. Again, I want to reiterate, as far as results go, this is the actual draw process. We are generating results for the draw right now. Results will be available within 48 hours of close of business today. So within 48 hours of 5 p.m. today, you will see your results reflected on your account, as well as your credit cards being charged if successful and receive an email. I imagine NDOW will keep up some communications through their social media channels as far as additional timing information.
Zach, I see a couple questions on here I might be able to chime in on. So first from Robert Baker, a question about our expanded archery Nelson Bighorn sheep hunt offering this year for archery weapon class. It is kind of an experiment, although we expect to continue to operate at least the next couple years. If we see success is extremely low, and that the experience isn't what we are expecting or what we're hoping to offer, especially by Nevada standards, we're certainly going to be willing to reevaluate. At this time, the hunt's at least expected to continue for the next 2 years. There's also a question from Nick Brancato, and he's asking if we make real-time adjustments to depredation tags during extreme events such as large-scale wildfire. And the answer to that, Nick, is yes, we absolutely do. It has been a few years where we offered a wide, or I guess a large number of tags to address some of these issues. You may remember the Martin fire that occurred in eastern Humboldt County and western Elko County about 3 years ago. Several 100,000 acres were burned, and most of this was critical mule deer winter range and pronghorn range. The department felt that we needed to lower the densities of those herds, especially going into winter, or we could potentially encounter catastrophic population declines. So in those instances, we do offer emergency depredation tags. It's not every year, and it's very case-by-case sensitive. We also offer emergency depredation tags in instances where elk may be becoming a problem on private lands. Again, case-by-case types of opportunities. For Sean Lynch, his question about tag costs, that's not a question that we can answer. That's established by a different body. for costs of cow and bull tags. And I would say my favorite big game recipe is venison shanks in adobo sauce.
I'm partial to venison backstrap, but I see a question here from Finney Family Adventures. So I'll clarify again. This number 8 million here is the number of entries to the draw. Entries are created based on the number of bonus points for every application. So we had 393,000 applications submitted by 85,000 and some change individuals. Those applications are generating over 8 million random numbers to determine the lowest number for each application and then begin assigning tags. So we're actually making really good time here. We're at about 8 million. I'd expect us to get close to about 8.4 million. Once that happens, you'll see the results generated count start to increase. The results generated count is actually when we actually determine successful or unsuccessful for each application. Once that's done, the draw will be complete. I will pull down the results of the draw onto several reports. I will put them onto physical flash drives so that there is a physical artifact of the draw results. There will be 4 flash drives in total. One will go to the department, one will stay at Calcomite, one will go to Craig, the Deputy Attorney General, and one will be provided to a third-party auditor. Those results are what we will use to validate the results of the draw over the next 48 hours. And I can answer Mr. Hollander's question. I believe the regulation is 5 p.m. the day of 48 hours.
Zach, I see a question from Sean Lynch asking about pneumonia issues in our River Mountain Bighorn sheep herd and how we may be able to transplant or not transplant based on the status of that pneumonia outbreak. I'm not the Bighorn sheep biologist, so I can't speak specifically to why we would or would not offer a particular weapon class for a given area. I can say I kind of provided a broad overview of the public input process in both our seasons and tags earlier in the conversation. And that would be a great opportunity for Sean, yourself, or others to propose that type of a season. And the department and CABs may be able to provide additional input and flesh those ideas out and ultimately get to a season and possibly quotas that might be more effective for the area based on what the Bighorn sheep resource might be. So that's a good question. And again, I just encourage everybody that's following along to participate, be involved, educate yourself on both the seasons, the quotas, what the department's doing on a regular basis, so that you may have a better understanding of why it is that maybe our quotas fall where they're at, or what the seasons look like on a given basis. That season setting process occurs every other year. We started, so we're currently in the first year of the season setting process, or the season. So in January of 2021, seasons for all of our bighorn sheep or big game species were set, and that's expected to last for 2 years. So in 2023, January 2023, that's when we'll begin the process of reevaluating and adjusting seasons, or maybe proposing new seasons such as the one that you've suggested. So keep an eye on that. And then every year, the department provides an opportunity for the public to provide input on our big game quotas.
Yeah, and just to clear up any confusion on the issuance of posting the draw results, so that'll be 48 hours from close of business, 5 p.m. today. So at the absolute latest, draw results would be available Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'm sure the department will do some public communications around that as well as the time approaches.
Zach, I guess I'll take this downtime to provide a little bit more of an update about the department, some of the things that we're active with. I know that as sportsmen, we're always very interested in big game species, status of our upland herds for hunting, but the department has several divisions. We have multiple resource divisions, the game division, which is again in charge of establishing quotas, assessing our big game populations, and implementing various conservation practices. We also have the habitat division that really spearheads the charge on getting boots on the ground to improve habitat, either through water development, enhancement, pinyon juniper thinning, or reseeding after wildfires. We also have a diversity division, and this is the division that is in charge of managing Nevada's non-game species. And I think that's kind of important because, again, we're often focused on a very small percentage of the actual wildlife that's in the state. The diversity division overall is in charge of way more animals than myself or other big game staff biologists within the agency. And they're often spread really thin. Right now, there's a really cool act that's in Congress. It's called the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. And this is a program that is going to infuse agencies across the U.S. with additional funding to both address those non-game species, but also species of concern that might reside with their state that exist on the state's action plan. And this is a funding source that's not going to just benefit diversity species, but also big game species that are listed on those action plans and considered for the special conservation status. I'd really encourage everyone to look this act up and try and get involved and provide your support for Recovering America's Wildlife Act, so that we can get that added infusion of funding for the state, both to help increase some of our capacity within divisions that are a little bit lean, like our diversity division, but also for more on the ground work to enhance our habitats. And you know, species in Nevada don't exist solely within an ecosystem. Everything's often tied together. And so if we can do work to benefit one species, we can often help several others that reside within those places. You know, we also have a law enforcement division, as well as some divisions that kind of fly under the radar, our data and technology services. And they're the ones that are integral to working with Calcomite, getting to this point where we can offer the draw in this great system that I think a lot of Nevadans have come to love and appreciate, as well as the fiscal services division, which very under the radar, but also very important to a lot of the work that we as biologists and the agency can do, whether it's purchasing equipment to get habitat improvements done, or establishing contracts with companies to go out and thin pinyon and juniper. Coupled with our law enforcement division, we have various roles within the state that we all play, but we oftentimes crosswalk among each other, and we're all integral to getting the work done, as well as getting to this point where we are today with implementing this draw and providing this opportunity for all of you that are following along and those that are unable to do so.
Thanks, Cody. I think there's a couple questions for me to work on. And one is there a maximum number of bonus points that you can earn? So there is no maximum to the amount of bonus points that you can accrue throughout your lifetime for a given species. However, there is a reasonable maximum limit of what is out there currently with bonus point balances. It is conceivable that somebody has put in for points only since the inception of the bonus point program. I wouldn't know off the top of my head what that was, but there are certainly people out there with large amounts of bonus points. Nick asks, when does the application for sage grouse and the Sheldon NWR? Nick, I apologize. I don't know that off the top of my head. It's usually the August timeframe or so. We'll make sure that that's clearly communicated when that goes out. I see Austin asking if we're going to have to work on Saturday, or if we should hope we post the results by the end of the work week. So really the only thing I can say is, again, 48 hours, and Calcomite is open 7 days a week. We've been known to work on a few weekends, so we can sometimes hunt during the week. So however that shakes out over the next 48 hours, we'll see. Dan asks, are unsuccessful non-resident guided draw applicants allowed to purchase return tags in first come, first serve period? Yes, you are. However, if a non-resident guided tag is returned, those are excluded from the first come, first serve list. So those would not be on sale first come, first serve. The logistics of guide booking with 1 day left in the season would just be something that we couldn't handle logistically at this time. Lyle, I don't know the answer to that, but your math does seem solid. I'll make sure that we include that to our presentation to the commission on the average number of points per application, so that that can become a matter of public record going forward.
Yeah, Zach, that question, I don't know off the top of my head. I think the average number of bonus points is closer to 4. I don't think that every single applicant has 21 bonus points.
And again, so the random numbers that you're seeing here on this page, this 8.3 million, these are the number of random numbers generated for each application. So we took 393,000 applications. The bonus points on all of those applications are accumulating to 8.3 million. I'd expect it to get up to about 8.4 million here soon as the draw concludes. And again, just to reiterate, as far as results go, results will be made public and available within 48 hours at the conclusion of business today. One thing that I do have an opportunity to talk about as the draw is concluding here is one thing we also get quite a few questions on are your Silver State and PIW tag applications. We find that new hunters may not know the difference between those two tag applications in the main draw. So I'm going to read off just a couple of pointers about those. So an applicant can only draw one tag per species, and this includes Silver State and PIW. But we do offer these specialty tags. We don't offer party hunting for PIW tags. But the partnership in wildlife tags basically allows for the eligibility for the drawn hunter to hunt the species in any open unit. Manner of take is allowed to be used dependent on the season. So if you draw a PIW tag, you can hunt in any open unit for that species. And the manner of take that you choose to hunt with would just have to fall within like archery season, muzzleloader season, and illegal weapon season. PIW tags can be applied for while you're in a waiting period, and quotas are set in NAC. Funds raised from PIW tags are deposited into the Wildlife Heritage Trust account. On the flip side of that, the other thing that you're seeing is the Silver State tags. So similar to PIW, Silver State tags allow for the drawn hunter to hunt that species in any open unit specified for Silver State tags. The difference here, manner of take is not restricted by season. So you can hunt with any manner of take in any point of the season. Silver State applications do not utilize your bonus points, and Silver State tags can be applied for in the big game application period. Quotas are set and can vary each year, and funds raised are also deposited into the Wildlife Heritage Trust account used for the betterment of Nevada wildlife. So glad we got to have an opportunity to speak there. Someone asked what species we're on. We're actually very close to the end. We're looking at getting into cow elk right now, and after cow elk, you got the non-resident, resident, and the depredation cow elk, and we'll finish up with spike elk. So we're pretty close.
Zach, there's a question from Sean Lynch. I apologize that we weren't completely ignoring you on that. So he asked if there's a problem, a pneumonia problem with wild sheep as a result of coming into contact with domestic sheep or goats. Shouldn't there be laws introduced? And I can't answer that question. Bighorn sheep management's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, although I'm familiar. I work closely with our Bighorn sheep specialist. I can say that he works very closely with the domestic wool growers associations to come up with strategies and methods to minimize the amount of risk of contact between those domestic herds and our wild sheep. And I'd also suggest to you to get involved. There are several Bighorn sheep organizations, the Wild Sheep Foundation. More locally in Nevada, you have Nevada Bighorns Unlimited and various subchapters spread throughout the state. Those organizations are very Bighorn sheep conservation minded, and they would be great groups to get involved with to help move the needle on some of these conservation challenges for sheep. And, you know, Zach just mentioned a little bit about wrapping up on elk. And I think it would be a good time to just discuss elk a little bit. That is my specialty. I'm the state specialist for elk herds. And really, you know, what we've been looking at the last few years in Nevada, many people have noted some substantial declines in cow elk tags. And really the reason for that is because at one point in time around 2014, our populations were well above the appropriate population objectives for the state. I want to say we were about 20 to 30% over statewide. So our elk herd capped out or hit about 18,000 animals. And legally, we're allowed to have about 13,000 statewide, and that varies throughout the various herds within the state. Each herd is managed by an elk subplan, and within that elk subplan, we work closely with various stakeholders, the grazing livestock industry, mining industry, conservation organizations, to evaluate the overall capacity of elk on the landscape, and then to come up with a socially acceptable carrying capacity for those areas. And that's how we get to those population objectives. Elk in Nevada do really well, and their populations can flourish very quickly and that's how we got to the point we were in 2014, 2015. But I can say with a lot of help from our sportsmen, as well as an acceptance that we were going to be very aggressive with harvest, meaning there were probably, more hunters in the field than some people are enjoying or are used to. We were able to bring those populations back down within those population objectives. And so now we're really at a point where we're able to manage these populations for quality and keep them below those population objectives. I see a couple questions about the presence of cattle and manure being widespread, a detriment to habitat for native species from Wallace the Red. I can't answer that question off the top of my head. I can say that in situations where livestock grazing is done appropriately and we have conservation-minded members of the industry, there's areas where there's very little impact to the landscape. Pinyon juniper encroachment. Does pinyon juniper encroachment have any real impact on deer populations compared to horses, burros, predators, and drought? I would think fires would offset new PJ growth. So that's from Brooks Goodnight, and that question has a lot of information to unpack. And I'm going to try to do my best to address it. Rarely in wildlife management, our answer is very simple. Everything is often intertwined with one another. And so you asked, does pinyon juniper affect populations like a combination of horses, burros, predator, and drought? And I think the question would probably be more, I guess, appropriate that we can affect range conditions through appropriate pinyon and juniper removal. However, there's always going to be these other limiting factors on the landscape. At times, we may have control over those limiting factors, and in others, we don't, like long-term drought. Unfortunately, we don't have a faucet to turn water in off to help improve those rangeland conditions. And with issues like feral horses and burros on the landscape, again, the department does not have management responsibility for those species, nor do we have the leverage to do active management. That's entirely falls under the responsibility of the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, and under other federal bodies. And so we work closely with those agencies to try and address issues like horse and burro populations above appropriate management levels, and often and continue to strategize on ways to reduce the competition caused by those species. If the department can do adequate habitat projects, reduce competition among other ruminants and equids, and maybe turn the faucet back on, sure, we can get numbers back up. And certainly for your question about fires and how does it offset new PJ growth, it really depends on the type of fire. So in Nevada, the cheatgrass cycle is very detrimental to range productivity. So when wildfires come through and essentially kill all of the native shrubland and grasses that occur on the landscape, we often see cheatgrass encroaching into those landscapes and creating these large swaths of non-native grasses that are only really valuable to ungulates and big game species for a month out of the year, if not less. So you're one, losing all of that important cover and habitat that existed from that wildfire, and you're also replacing it with vegetation that is just not productive and not suitable for those animals. So if we can strategically remove pinyon juniper growth, maintain that understory, and encourage valuable vegetation to grow back into those places where pinyon juniper is removed, then it can absolutely be more valuable than fire, at least in Nevada. At certain elevation bands within the state, we do see more benefit from fire. Unfortunately, pinyon juniper is such a large component of the Nevada ecosystems, and oftentimes those fires are ripping through those places that are really prone to cheatgrass invasion. And again, I know there was a lot there to unpack, and I tried to answer that question as best as I can.
Thanks.
So I do have I see another question here about Nevada ever having a moose tag. The department is continually investigating and researching our expanding moose population in the state. There's a component of that question if they continue to migrate over, and we currently have data that suggests that we have not necessarily a substantial native population within the state that does not move back and forth, but enough animals where we're documenting production and recruitment within the state. So we do believe to have a resident population of moose. Whether or not we ever offer a tag for this species just depends on the population status, whether or not we believe that harvest could be a sustainable practice for this population. We do know that harvest can be a valuable population tool by one, potentially just maintaining a healthy big game herd, and also helping to generate revenue that can then be put back on the ground for conservation and habitat type projects. But at this time, I can't answer that question as to whether we would ever have a moose tag or if we would.
Thanks, Cody. I saw a really good question about random application entries and how they were calculated off of that. It may be hard to see on the screen here, but you can see we do have a system generated seed number that kicks off the random number generation for the draw. I don't particularly know what determines the first application being assigned that random number, but I do know it falls in line with our grouping there. So we do have a system generated seed number. Some states actually prescribe the seed number as a part of kicking off the random entries. So that's just how we do it here. And you'll notice something exciting. The results generation has completed. So in total, 8,424,570 entries were generated for this year's draw. That does not yet mean that the draw is complete. So what the system has done now, it has generated random numbers for every application. It has assigned the draw number for every application. And it is now going through from the lowest draw number to the highest in each group based on silver state, specialty tags, male, female, spike elk, and is assigning a result. So this is actually the portion right now where if you're wanting to wish yourself a little good luck, the system is determining successful and unsuccessful applicants at this time. So you'll see this results generated start to creep up, get closer to around 393,000. I believe it'll be a little less because we do have bonus point applications which don't technically get a result. And after that, the draw will be complete. Again, from there's a couple of reports that I'll download. If you want to stick on, you can watch me for, privatization and security purposes. I'll download those reports to my computer. I will open these thumb drives. I've got 4 of them here. They are sealed and unopened, so I will open them with a pair of scissors, and we will post those into some envelopes, 4 envelopes, which I will seal. Those envelopes will remain sealed until they are needed. Those 4 envelopes are going to go to the Deputy Attorney General, the Nevada Department of Wildlife, 1 at Calcomite, and then 1 to a third-party auditor. And those results will be used to validate the results of the draw and post the results within 48 hours. And if you're interested, I'll get into a few things when our reports generate as to what reports we do get out of the draw, a couple of statistics that you may find interesting, and we'll go from there. So this is the exciting part right now. If you're going to cross your fingers or knock on wood, this may be where you want to do it because 56,001 results have been generated so far.
So Zach, there's a question from Chris Carter, and he's asking specifically about what happened to one of our elk herds in Unit 065 in the tags. And I wanted to just provide a little insight into what happened there. Unfortunately, that herd has just not been performing as the department has expected Unfortunately, we've seen several successive years of very low harvest and oftentimes no harvest for both our bull and our cow quotas. Field observations from our biologists suggest that there's very few animals that actually reside in that unit at this time, and sort of fall in line with the department's strategy of providing a quality elk hunting opportunity, especially for those that are putting in for several years. We felt like this hunt was not meeting those criteria, and that it would be better to close it for the time being, evaluate the status of the herd and whether or not there's anything that we can do to improve numbers and population performance, and hopefully get back to a point where we may be able to offer tags there. But at this time, we felt like it just doesn't, it's not providing that quality hunt experience that we intend to offer to our Nevada elk hunters.
Looks like we're up to 90,565 results generated so far for the draw. While this is going on, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the 4 envelopes that we will place the draw results on. And just, so everybody can see and make sure we're on the up and up here. There's nothing in these 4 envelopes. And I'm going to write down on each of these. Today is May 20th, 2021. This is the 2021 tag draw results. We'll keep filling these out here. Okay, let's see where we're at on results. We're at 109,000 now, so well on our way. And just so everybody can see, all of the envelopes are clearly marked May 20th, 2021 tag draw results. All 4 envelopes have the same content. When I pull off the thumb drives, I will indicate the chain of custody for those results, let everybody know where they're going, and I'll also initial them with my initials. I'd expect we have about 15 more minutes to go through, get all these results generated, and then I'll start pulling the reports. Oh, Cody, is there a problem with my webcam? I see that there's a question on that. I just wanted to make sure that I'm good and everybody can see me.
I can see you, Zach, just fine.
Now, again, as we're generating results, I want to reiterate 2 important things. A lot is going to could potentially happen over the course of the week after results are posted. One, if your credit card is not successful in charging for your awarded tags, you have 1 week and only 1 week to pay for your tag before those tags are given to an alternate hunter. So I would highly encourage you to check, make sure that your credit cards are up to date in the system. If you've recently canceled a credit card, make sure that your new one is up on your profile and set as your default payment method. Two, if you drew a tag that you know that you will be returning, I'd suggest to go ahead and take advantage of the electronic tag return period, which is 1 week after the results are posted. You can return your tag quick and easy by going to your account, clicking on your applications and points, finding your tag, and clicking the return button there.
I think I have a few more questions that I can try and chime in on, Zach. Starting with David Hollander, just asking about the general structure of our antelope seasons and why muzzleloader may come after rifle when for our other species we don't do this. Unfortunately, I can't give you a great answer right now. That's kind of one of those custom and culture things that have existed with our antelope season structures before my time here. I can try and reach out and maybe get some answers from our antelope big game specialist, but at this time I don't have a straightforward answer to provide you. There's also a question from Dylan Kite about issuing over 1,000 doe tags throughout the state. I'm not sure what he's referring to. We're only offering, I would have to pull up our quotas, but again, doe harvest, antlerless harvest can be a pretty effective management tool, especially in a year where we're facing such extreme drought conditions. Competition on our rangelands is going to be very high this year, especially with lower productivity, and doe harvests are a very effective tool at either managing numbers or helping to minimize competition. There's one of these concepts that's often thrown out about additive and compensatory mortality, and at the levels of antlerless harvest that we're offering, especially for our antelope and deer herds, that's oftentimes what we expect to be compensatory mortality. They tend to be this idea of compensatory mortality is essentially that when we harvest an animal, that another animal within the population that may have been close to or on the brink of not making it may now have the access to resources to survive. So you're essentially taking one and saving another, versus additive mortality is when harvest is taking an animal, but that other animal on the landscape may not make it either. But we do believe that all of our antlerless harvests fall in line with this compensatory mortality idea, and again, intended to help reduce competition on depleted rangelands. I see that there's a question about proposals to reduce archery tags for units 10 and 14. Again, we did a bit of an overview about how quotas are established at the beginning of this conversation. One of those metrics is our postseason post-hunt buck ratios, and another is the actual population composition and numbers within the population. So for our archery quotas, we do have ultra low success, but oftentimes with success, if you see a reduction in the number of tags being issued, it's likely because that population also experienced a decline. So that decline in tags corresponds with those lower numbers. This isn't always the case. It's oftentimes more complicated and complex than that, but that's the general overview for your question there. And I think think you have a few questions about draw process that I'll pass the baton off to Zach.
I apologize, Cody. I don't see that one. Can you point out whose question that was?
Nicholas Cotham.
Oh, got it. So in 2020 Nevada Big Game Hunt data under the apps column, how is that number considered? Is that the total number of apps for that unit or first choice only that goes into that number? I'm actually not sure on that one, Cody. I don't think I have done much work with producing the actual summaries in the big game handbook. I have to, if recall from memory, I believe you guys separated out between how many applicants listed something as their first, second, third, and fourth choice.
Yeah, so that is a good question. So the apps in the hunt data table, the one that summarizes harvest success, draw rate, quotas, and then some other hunt metrics that come out of the hunts, that's only based on first choice. And the reason that we do that is because all hunters have to provide a first choice on their application if they're not applying for a bonus point only. So it's a snapshot of the total number of hunters that are applying across the state. It gets more complicated if it's all of the choices for each hunt because, again, not everybody puts a second, third, fourth, or fifth choice. And also somebody that we counted their fourth choice for a given hunt may have actually drawn their first choice. So they actually didn't affect your chances of getting that tag. So for the hunt data, it's just first choice applicants. We do summarize bonus point tables on our website as well. And that is all applicants by choice total. And really, we wanted to give you a snapshot of that particular hunt and what the application trends look like as you work on your own applications and understanding how people may apply as either a first choice or maybe most people are putting a particular hunt down as their fifth. Sorry about that, Zach. I saw it was about hunter choices and just assumed that it was a draw related question.
No, that's okay. That kind of leads me into one more point. I think we'll have time for one more talking point until the results are completed, and that's around your hunter choices. I think most folks understand this, but you do have up to 5 choices that you can make on your application. And those choices are very powerful also in determining your draw odds and success rates in the draw. So I would always encourage an applicant to utilize all 5 of their choices and utilize your preferred units first. I do want to stop myself really quick because the draw results have completed. The draw is done now. If you look here on the screen, you can see here the number of applications, party applications. Bonus points aren't going to be totaled in terms of everything, but you can see some cool information. Like the lowest random number generated was 15. Highest random number for the draw generated was 999,999,985. Our average random number sits at about 500,001,252. It looks like we do have some leftover tags available. That leftover tag list is going to be listed out at the same time that results are posted. So look for that leftover tag list on endowlicensing.com and look for it to possibly update after the 1-week grace period where more tags are returned. So out of those quota, 24818. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull down these reports that are used to validate the draw. So one, we are going to pull a report of random numbers assigned. We are going to pull a report of the lowest random number assigned for every application. So that's actually your draw number. We're going to report for any excluded applications. These are going to be folks who maybe received a law enforcement suspension between the time that they applied and the time that they drew a tag or withdrew their application. Then we will go through the actual results, who was successful and who was unsuccessful. Next will be the remaining tags report. And then the alternates report. So all of those data sets combined with other query tool capabilities that the department has at their disposal are used to verify the results of the draw. So I'm going to stop my share for one moment And I'm going to expand my screen share to include my entire desktop so that we can see these reports being generated and show how they get put onto their thumb drives. So momentarily, I'm going to stop my share and reshare my entire desktop. And I do have a wide monitor here. I hope it renders okay. I'll switch things up if it doesn't. So here you go. Let me wait for it to catch up on the stream that I'm watching just to make sure that we're all good. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, it looks like everybody can see my screen. So you'll notice here on the right-hand side, I have an FTP directory here. There is no uncategorized draw results files currently on this FTP site. So currently the latest draw results files we have here for the 2021 guided draw. I'm going to refresh this and we should start see these reports trickling in momentarily. So you'll notice I've got my alternates report, my results report, my excluded report, and my remaining tags report, all with a timestamp of today. This is in Central Time because I am in Texas. It'll take a little bit longer for the random numbers files to generate. Obviously, we're looking at a file with 8.4 million random numbers, so that may take a second here. So let's continue to refresh this while those go through. And so I'll just ask for some patience while those files generate. They are rather large with a large amount of data in them. Someone asked, why run a second draw when people have to reapply instead of rerunning for people unsuccessful? The reason being is tags are put into the second draw because nobody applied for them. We'd not have a way to determine what unsuccessful people wanted to apply for in the second draw. So we can't make an application choice for a customer or a hunter. So that's why. Essentially, anything that ends up in the second draw was either returned without an alternate or nobody listed those on their application. A little more time.
Hey, Zach, it seems like we're getting close to wrapping up. I do see a few population biology questions that are being asked. I'll try and provide a few brief answers. Mark Rogers asked, why can't we move animals from one area to another as needed instead of just giving out tags and shooting them? And the answer to that is it's really complex. Oftentimes we have considerations that you may be moving animals that may have some disease, that you could be introducing a novel disease to a new environment and potentially have detrimental and cascading effects for those populations. Others, we may not have suitable landscapes to move animals. So for instance, our bighorn sheep, we've often had a very active trap and transplant program, and that's really the reason that bighorn sheep have really propagated in the state and are doing so well and are widely considered to be a conservation success. However, we're running out of places to move sheep. There's places where mountain ranges that we could move them to, but they're in close contact to domestic goats and sheep. And there's a high potential for interaction between those populations, and they may pick up something from those domestic animals. And then in other instances, like our elk populations, we're at management objective for all of those herds. So we really don't have places to move elk into where there's room for additional animals, not to mention the amount of effort that it would take to remove those numbers of animals and resource. So I will transition. There's another question about the Unit 115 elk depredation hunts and whether or not the landowner is going to provide access. So access for that hunt is not explicitly given if you draw the tag. However, for all of the people that draw the hunt, we're going to provide contact information for the landowner to allow you to coordinate with that person to allow access. So access will be provided as long as you properly coordinate and follow the channels and directions that the department is going to provide to you. And the reason for that depredation hunt, it's a very unique situation. The property is owned by the Southern Nevada Water Authority, and it's not necessarily a private body or a private landowner. It's actually a governmental agency. And many of our programs that we offer to address those populations and to address elk issues on private land don't specifically outline what we do when elk are a problem on public or governmentally owned property. So this issue has been escalating in recent years. More and more elk are seeking refuge on this property, primarily because it has some highly desirable cultivated alfalfa fields that elk love. And it's not a situation unique here. That this happens in a lot of other places, but the property owner is the unique situation. So through coordination with the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the property manager, we came up with this depredation hunt structure as a solution to address those elk that are out there causing damage to both their croplands, as well as just getting away from hunters. We want to make sure that our hunters have an opportunity. So a lot of research has been done on hunting pressure and how that affects elk behavior. These quotas are all very low for both our antlered and antlerless seasons, because it doesn't take very many hunters to get out into the field, applying pressure to elk for them to quickly stop doing what they're doing and try and escape that hunting pressure. So the idea is that we will push those elk off of the property and back up into the uplands of Unit 115, where they would be available to all of our elk hunters in that unit. And I do think that I answered Mark Rogers' follow-up question about moving animals after a fire instead of implementing a hunt structure.
Just wait on those other two files to come in. Looks like the assigned file just showed up here. Again, timestamp of 12:52 p.m. Central. One more report, and I'll pull these onto my desktop and start putting them on the thumb drives. Shouldn't be too much longer. One question about the second draw with Area 10 archery, really quick. I can answer that while we're going here. But yeah, that's correct, Nicholas. You may see some tags that you applied for end up in the second draw, and I think Mr. Evertson has the right example. So the non-resident leftovers do jump over for everyone to apply for. So if there are non-resident tags left over, those would go into the main draw. So you may see some tags listed on your application that are in the second draw coming from the non-resident pool. And with that, all of our files are now on my FTP directory. So I'm going to take all of those and copy them down to my desktop here. You can see here they are coming in now. We have the alternates ready, the results. We've got the remaining tags, the assigned numbers. We're looking for 6 reports here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going right now. Looks like about 53 seconds remaining on that alternates report, and then get to one last one. And Nicholas, to further clarify, it could have been that your dad and uncle were in a party together, mixed between residency and non-resident. And so even though it was listed on your uncle's application, it could have been that resident quota had already been used up. All right, and one last report here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reports. So now all that's left is for me to get these reports onto these thumb drives so that they can be delivered to the proper governing bodies, and then that will conclude the draw. I do want to point out again, these thumb drives are sealed. They have never been opened. There's no information on them. I'm going to open this pack of 3 first, and I'm using scissors to open those so you can see that they are open. I'm actually going to stop my sharing so you can see me best. Because at this point, you just need to make sure you can see me opening these. So here is the first pack of thumb drives. This is a pack of 3, a blue, green, or blue, red, and purple one. I'm going to do the purple one first. I'm going to insert this into my computer. I'm going to go back to my sharing. And on my sharing, you'll be able to see here, the USB is here and empty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these files and put these on the USB. Too many. So these files are going to go on this USB here, and you can see the USB is empty. It takes some time to copy. And again, I know this isn't the most fun thing to watch, but it is all part of the process that we have to do to follow the Nevada Administrative Code.
Zach, Cody, I just wanted to say thanks. You guys did a great job today. I appreciate the hard work you guys put in here. And I think it was a great opportunity to educate the public. So great job. Thank you.
I think I speak for everybody when we say that we appreciate the engagement from the public. It's awesome to interface with folks and talk about the process, and it's a passion of mine, and I certainly enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks, Craig, and thanks, Zach. I was just happy to be part of the process this year and provide some input on some topics that you may not have the expertise to answer. I'm going to wrap it up. One question: will Nevada introduce bison in the future? And I think the answer to that is very unlikely, but I would say that we all have reason to be optimistic about our expanding moose population in the state. Very few states have the opportunity to watch as a big game species colonizes and expands and establishes itself. And we believe this population is doing really well. So stay tuned, and we'll see where that takes us down the line. And thanks again, and thanks everyone for your engagement and great questions. If you have any other need to get some more clarification, feel free to reach out. Someone here at the department or myself can help give you some more answers. Thanks, guys.
And I'm sure everybody saw, but this first thumb drive has the results of the draw on it. So I'm going to put this in the envelope. I'm going to seal this envelope. And this envelope will not be opened except for validation purposes. This will go to the Deputy Attorney General, which I'm going to abbreviate as the DAG. And I'm going to initial this with my initials so you can see that here. Next, we will take the red thumb drive and repeat the process. So the red thumb drive is in my computer. You'll see it pull up here. And there is nothing on the red thumb drive. It is completely brand new and empty. We are going to take the results reports that we just generated and post these onto the thumb drive. David Young asked, why does it take so long between the close of the app deadline and the draw? I would argue it doesn't take that long because we take bonus point applications up until the 17th. We cannot conduct the draw until bonus point applications are complete. So really it's only taking 3 days to get everything ready to run the draw, which is rather quick compared to most other Western states. And again, just to point out, results again will be posted on your account. You'll be notified your cards will be charged within 48 hours of the conclusion of business today. And I'm sure as that time draws near, Endow will have some communications out for everybody to inform them. So we got about a minute left with this one, and then we're halfway through. Yeah, Jesse, cards and emails and results posted to your account will be within 48 hours after the close of business today. At the latest, 5 p.m. on Saturday. And again, just for everybody watching, I would make sure, ensure that your credit cards are current on your account. You only have 1 week to rectify any failed payment for your tags before your tag is given to an alternate. So I would highly encourage everybody to make sure that their credit cards are current. All right, there's the second one. So I'm going to eject this USB here. All right, so this is the red thumb drive. Here it is. The red thumb drive is going into an envelope with nothing else in it. And it is going to be sealed. This will be Endow's copy of the draw results. So I'm going to write this for Endow. Initial it with my initials. And so here are the Endow copy of the draw results. 2 more to go. I have the blue thumb drive here. I'm going to put this blue thumb drive into my computer. All right, and just to show you, the thumb drive is empty. I'm going to copy over these files to the thumb drive. All right, so that'll take about another 5 minutes, and then we'll have 1 more to go. And this thumb drive, I'm going to go ahead and write on the envelope, will go to the auditor. I'll wait to signature it until the thumb drive is in there. Few more minutes. All right, so that is complete, the third thumb drive. So I'm going to eject this. Go. Here is the blue thumb drive that will be going to the third-party auditor of the draw results. Again, nothing in the envelope, putting it in, and sealing it. And I'm going to initial it. And here's the auditor's set of the draw results. And last but not least, we will do Calcomite set. Unfortunately, these things only come in a 3-pack, so I bought a third one individually here. So I'm going to cut this open. You can see that it is sealed. Looks like Mr. Reese is asking how many numbers were issued this year. That would be 8.4 million. I don't have the approximate number in front of me working on this thumb drive. They don't make them as easy as I'd like for them to be on these thumb drives. But around 8.4 million, when we provide the draw results to the commission, we'll update in more detail. So here is our last thumb drive going into my computer. And this one will be retained at Calcomite. You can see here, no name. This is the new one. Looks like SanDisk presents some initial files. I'm going to delete those. All right, so now we've got a blank thumb drive, and we are going to put the results on here. And once this is complete, that will conclude the presentation of the draw process. So we'll give that another minute. Not too much longer. All right, so I am going to stop sharing because there's nothing else to really share. I'll just allow you guys to see here. I'm going to eject the thumb drive from my computer. Here it is. And these are Calcomite's draw results. Nothing in the envelope except this thumb drive. And I am going to seal this and initial it. And so that is Calcomite's portion of the draw results here. So I've got Calcomite, Auditor, Endow, DAG. And so these will all be transferred through a chain of custody process to ensure the results are validated. From there, I just want to say I appreciate everybody and wish everybody luck in their draw results. Again, draw results will be posted within 48 hours to your account through an email and a credit card charge if successful. Craig, I don't know if you want to do anything in conclusion to that, or if you feel like I've adequately demonstrated everything, we can call it done.
No, I think you're good. Zach?
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate everybody and the opportunity to speak with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.